Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Colin and we'll be talking about Apple's new announcement of the Apple iPhone 16. All right, so Apple just announced their new lineup of Apple iPhone 16s and they also announced the AirPods and the Apple Watches, but today I'll be focusing on the Apple 16s and the Pros. From my perspective as an Android user and a Google Pixel user, I've been using Android for a long time and Pixels as well. Just a history. My first Android phone is the Sony Xperia X10. That was a really great phone. There were some controversies with multi gestures back in the day, but I've moved on to Samsung devices and now the Google Pixels. Now, with Google Pixels, I wasn't really fond with their devices back in the day. I've been using Samsung and I thought Samsung had a lot of features and everything. I did work at a carrier store and eventually become a Google ambassador for that brand. And once I got the Google Pixel, which is the Pixel 3 XL, that was the very first Pixel phone I've used, I fell in love with it. So ever since then, I've been using Google Pixels and I never went back. Now, in terms of iPhones, I've never used an iPhone as a daily driver. I do have Apple device as well. I do have an iPad Pro. My mom has an iPhone 14 Plus, and I've also helped lots of customers with their iPhones. So it's not new to me, but let's check out the new iPhones. Okay, so the new iPhone 16s comes in 4 different colors. It comes in ultramarine, teal, pink, black, and white. So in terms of the colors, I do like their colors. The ultramarine is really vibrant. All of these colors are quite vibrant. They did go away from the lighter faded colors from last year. So I do like the new colors a little bit different. In terms of the sizes, it's the same as last year, 6.1 and 6.7. So no changes there. As well as the design. Most of the design is pretty much the same from last year in terms of the flat sides and the flat screen. The only difference really is the camera on the back. It's not diagonal. It's going back to the vertical camera setup, back where iPhone XS was like. Now, the reason for this is for the spatial video for if you have an Apple Vision Pro for that. Aside from that, they do have introduced the action button on the regular iPhones, whereas last year the action button was only on for the Pros. This is something where you could customize this button to do all sorts of things like turning on a flashlight. By default, it puts it on mute. Again, I don't think this is quite useful. I mean, it's good to have, I guess, but it's not really needed. So what is the camera control do? So the camera control controls basically anything to do with the camera. So basic functions such as taking a photo and recording. So if you press it on the camera control, now Apple doesn't call it a button, they just call it camera control, but it's basically a button. If you press on it, it launches the camera app. If you press it again, it will take the photo. To record, you just press and hold it. Now you can also use it to control the mini user interface for the camera, which allows you to control zooming in and zooming out, the exposure. This is all done by sliding left and right. It's basically a capacitive trackpad, basically a miniature trackpad on the side of your phone where you could control those elements. Now, what I think about it is it's pretty neat. More control while without using the touchscreen to control some of those features. There was a rumor a few years back where Apple's trying to get rid of buttons altogether. So it's interesting to see that they're still introducing the action button and this new camera control button. Now, whether should Android users or Pixels take a note of this? Not really. It's just another physical feature on the phone that could break, right? So you could definitely do everything on the screen itself, just like the dynamic island, where it's kind of cool. It's just one of those features. It's nice to have, but not necessary. In terms of the iPhone 16s, they do introduce the new A18 chip. So last year was the A16 chip, which is using the iPhone 14 Pro chip. So they stopped using last year's model as the current model's chip. So this year they've jumped from A16 to the A18. So that will give you 20 to 30% faster than the iPhone 15. And of course, a lot is because of the AI stuff that will be introduced later. In terms of the screen, they did say the screen brightness goes up to 2000 nits and all the way down to 1 nit. So pretty cool, but of course, Google Pixels have the edge on that. And the only downside of the iPhone 16s, even in 2024, is it's still 60 hertz. So even the regular Pixels, they have at least 90 hertz, right? Apple being Apple, they don't want to give you any higher refresh rate on the regular iPhones. They are reserved for the Pros only, which I believe is quite a bummer because at least 90 hertz would be perfect for the regular iPhones. And then if you want to get the Pros, then you'll get even a better refresh rate. But unfortunately, Apple did not do that. Okay, let's talk about the iPhone 16 Pros. So it comes in 2 new sizes. The regular 16 Pro, the smaller version is now 6.3-inch screen, so it's a little bit bigger than the regular. And the Pro Max is the 6.9-inch, so it's quite a big of a phone. I already think the Pro Max is already quite big, although I do have the Pro XL, but we'll have to see once I get my hands on it just to see the actual feel of it. In terms of the colors, we have the regular black, white, and the natural titanium color, and the new color is called the Desert Titanium, which is quite a nice color. Kind of reminds me of a bronze color, but it's pretty much the same design as last year. No real difference. The only added feature, of course, is the camera control button again on the side, which we mentioned earlier. The chip is not the regular A18, it's the A18 Pro, which has an extra GPU core in it, which again, an improvement of 20 to 30% range from last year. It does have the faster USB 3 speeds on a Pro that you get. And they did mention that the battery life is the best on an iPhone because it does have a much bigger battery on the Pros, specifically the Pro Max. And then with the new cameras, we got the 3 new cameras, the 48 megapixels on both the main and the ultra wide. And the smaller Pro does get a 5 times telephoto versus the 3 times telephoto from last year's Pro. So overall, I mean, it is a good phone. I personally still like my Pixels camera as well. iPhone video does have really good video with the ProRes. The only thing that's quite interesting is the AI features are coming later. They're not going to be released on the same day as the new phones come out, so that's going to be interesting. So I mean, Google also does this as well, where they announce something that's not going to be released yet. They release it later. One example is the Zoom Enhance. That was introduced last year with the Pixel 8s. They just released that when the 9 came out. So I guess the companies wants to fill in a lot of features during the announcement, but not really ready for release. That's just the part of the way they do things now. I mean, every year they release new phones and they need to fill in the gaps with new features, but a lot of them are not ready yet. So overall, I mean, not too excited, but if you're coming from an old iPhone, I think these are great devices to upgrade to. If you have the 15s, I don't think it's really great to upgrade. It's not a really huge difference. But if you're coming from an older iPhone, and then it might be a good choice for you to upgrade. In terms of if you're on a Pixel and you want to upgrade to a new iPhone, honestly, for me at least, I would stick with the Pixels because they are great devices. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please write down in the comments what you feel about my thoughts and what your thoughts are too as well. What do you think of the new iPhone 16s? Like and subscribe to my channel so you can see more content, and thank you very much.